So, high-intensity interval training on the bike is absolutely essential when wanting to elicit improvements in both fitness and power. And there actually comes a point whereby if this is not included and everything is long, slow and just chilled out, then gains simply cannot be achieved. As seen here, when you're doing just zone 2 easy rides alone, progression initially is pretty good, but at some point this is going to plateau off and you're going to reach a cap. Versus if you're constantly hitting hit intervals, you're going to see this constant progression. Although you've got to remember, this will slow down as you get better and better and better. The law of diminishing marginal returns and all. Basically, in short, what I'm trying to say here is cycle intervals are pretty goddamn essential, and without them, you're toast. So, what are the best ones to actually include within your cycle program? Let's take a look. For most people, it can actually be considered that it is far better to actually hit shorter, sharper, higher power intervals, and there's a number of studies supporting this, whereby if an individual is operating anywhere between 100 to 170% of FTP in intervals ranging from 30 seconds up to 4 minutes, you will see a far greater increase in one's VO2 max and threshold power, versus say doing longer 8 to 20 minute intervals at threshold. As seen here, study A saw a greater increase in one's 20-minute power following this. So it's pretty apparent VO2 max type of workouts do have an edge, and for the everyday person are actually far more effective, efficient and easy to fit in around a busy schedule, certainly giving you the most bang for your buck. Does this mean though that the longer styled intervals are not going to possess any benefit to you within your training plan? Well no, absolutely not. In essence, what you've got to remember is that as the power requirement of intervals drops, you've got to increase the duration. Otherwise, they'll simply just become less effective, irregardless of what your goal is. For example, doing 40 30-second intervals at 441 watts, equating to 20 minutes of effort in total, is simply always going to be more effective, efficient, and just trump doing 4 by 5 minutes or 2 by 10 minutes at 368 watts, as the total time range is the same, yet in one you're holding a far higher average power, in turn pushing yourself harder and actually putting far more of a stimulus on your body. Simple science, the 30-second intervals are therefore more effective. But assuming you don't make this mistake, longer styled intervals, as I was saying previously, have an absolute integral role within your training plan for cycle power progression and FTP development. And additionally, on top of this, you've got to look at the goal length of time you want to be holding this top end power for. For example, if you're looking for just a super short, sharp 5-minute effort of power, then super short, sharp VO2 max intervals would most likely cut it. But if you're looking for a strong hour of power, also known as your FTP, then you've really got to be putting in these longer sustained efforts. For example, something like 3 by 20 minutes or 6 by 10 minutes. As this type of session is going to pop a completely different type of stimulus on your body, where it's more about that muscular endurance versus just that top end power. And without it, you're simply going to struggle and most likely crumble when you go to do your FTP test. For me, it actually becomes pretty apparent that if you want to increase your FTP, you've got to have 2 types of sessions. Your VO2 max with the goal of raising that top end power, and then those longer style threshold sessions, where you're going to get that body acclimatization to holding higher powers for longer periods of time, and that adaptation whereby then when you go into that threshold test, you're not going to be just overloaded with fatigue come 5 minutes into it. For me, they're both essential, they both play an integral role, and one is simply not more valuable than the other, as in my opinion you need both of them to reach your true potential in an FTP test. Give them a go, let me know how you do, and yeah, go and bosh that next test you do. Cheers.